All right, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Off the Court with me, Wenson Mavoro, and thank you for making time once again to join me on this particular show where we talk all things basketball from an African perspective on the world at large. As they say, basketball never stops, nor does the game have borders, as it is one of those elements of society that brings us together. This evening, I'm joined by quite an interesting panel that will be giving a regional perspective to the development of the game of basketball. And I have to make mention to everybody that the very fact that these people have made an effort to join us this evening demonstrates their commitment to be able to just do what they can within the power and what they have to grow the game of basketball. And joining me, of course, I will start with the only lady on the panel. As they say, ladies go first. But this evening, we'll not follow the ladies go first mantra, but we will be looking at the very fact that Charmaine, she's the only lady among men. And she was like, you know what? I'm not going to be left out in this important conversation with regards to the game of basketball. So I'm in at me. So I'm joined by Charmaine, who is from Zimbabwe. She is the Secretary General of the Basketball Union of Zimbabwe. And I'm also joined by Peter Gomani, who is from Malawi, and he is the Secretary General of the Malawi Basketball Association. And I'm joined by now, Tata, here I want you to, I have to first of all put a disclaimer. You know, I find my Shona tongue is struggling to pronounce your Botswana name correctly. And I know Charmaine right now is wondering why my Shona tongue can't pronounce the name correctly. I think you can blame Roderick because Roderick is the only Zambian on the platform here who obviously has influenced me to fail to pronounce this name correctly. But hey, Tata, please, you will help us to be able to pronounce your name correctly as we go. But for the sake of this show, I will call you Tata, and everybody else, I will refer to you by your first name. And of course, last but not the least, Roderick Ndlovu is joining me, who is the Zambia Basketball Federation Secretary General. Now, Tata is from Botswana, and he is the Secretary General of the Botswana Basketball Association. So this evening, ladies and gentlemen, we will be looking at a very interesting topic that is the role of federations or associations in the development and growth of the game of basketball. And this panel has been meticulously selected to be able to provide regional perspectives and discover areas of collaboration that can help us to be able to champion the agenda of growth of the game of basketball. Now, as I earlier indicated, that we are joined by the only lady among men, and this is no other than Charmaine. So, Charmaine, I will start with you this evening as we get into our conversation. First things first, we would like, first of all, just to once again welcome you. And what we would like to find out, just tell us a little bit briefly about the Basketball Union of Zimbabwe, where you come from. And by the way, before you come in, Charmaine, would like to congratulate the entire country of Zimbabwe for picking a woman as a Secretary General. Zim, I think you've beaten all of us. Over to you, Charmaine.
Thank you, Winston. Good evening, gentlemen. So the Basketball Union of Zimbabwe, I think it's generally the same setup as a lot of the other federations in the region. We are the supervising board or the governing board of basketball in the country. We will usually do the from grassroots up to the club level and also the senior national teams. So we're generally there to govern, promote, and supervise the sport of basketball in the country. Okay, I don't know if Winston is still here. Peter, I see you. Are we the only two that are in the in the broadcast as of now?
Yeah, Charmaine, I can see you too, but I don't see the rest of the guys. So maybe we just wait for
Hear
them.
you. I don't know if you can hear me.
All right, yeah, it
Oh,
does. It does look like they're coming back, so I'm sure we can just allow everybody else to come back. Or maybe while we wait, because I see even the host is not here. I guess Peter, you can also introduce yourself so that there isn't just dead space while we're waiting for the host to come back.
I'm back.
okay.
Okay, great.
I'm back. Yeah. So, Peter, over to you. You can just introduce yourself and basically just briefly tell us about the Malawi Basketball Association.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Peter Gumani. I'm the Secretary Federation. Malawi Basketball Federation is mandated to run all the basketball activities in Malawi and to develop basketball from grassroots level to the top level. Um, we are affiliated to the Malawi National Council of Sports. And also we have affiliates that are affiliated to us. We have got 3 zones. As you know, Malawi is there's the northern part of Malawi, the central and the southern part. So the northern part has got a board, which is called Northern Zone Basketball League, which it runs the league in that particular zone. Similarly, in the central, there's the Central Zone Basketball League. It runs the league in that particular zone, and then the Southern Zone Basketball League, similar, it's with a similar structure. So basically, these 3 zones they help us to micromanage the basketball in the respective zones, and then we are on top of them, overseeing the three zones, and making sure that basketball is developing and growing in Malawi, and also making sure that things are moving without problems. Basically, let me say that.
Okay, interesting over there. Let me now come to Tata as well. Tata, just briefly tell us. We know that you come from Botswana, and over there's quite a lot that's happening within the game of basketball, but I'll not preempt. So just tell us a little bit and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the Botswana Basketball Association.
Oh, thank you very much. Just to make it easy for you, just call me TT. Okay.
TT, okay.
Yes, I'm the Secretary General of Botswana Basketball Association. Botswana Basketball Association, you can just call it BBA. It's a 8-member board made up of 8 executive committee members. We are basically responsible, for governance of basketball. We are responsible for promoting basketball in the country. Like, all other federations, our responsibility includes, grassroots basketball. We also coordinate to a certain extent, the league, but there is a separate entity, Botswana Basketball League, which is responsible for running the league. We are more like, supervisors. So yes, we are very much interested in ensuring that we not only promote basketball in Botswana, but in Africa as a whole. Thank you very much.
Okay. So thank you very much. Roderick, we will come to you. Just briefly tell us about the Zambia Basketball Federation as you introduce yourself as well.
Watson, thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. I want to thank you for this initiative, for bringing all the powerhouses together. And it's an opportunity for Zambia Basketball Federation through the SG to share a few things with my colleagues from the region. Yeah, so my name is Roderick Njovu. I'm the Secretary General of the Zambia Basketball Federation. And of course, we are the only mandated organization in the country through the Act of Parliament to organize supervise and also develop basketball at all tiers. And having said that, I think it has encompassed the activities of what our role is in the running of sports in this country. Thank you.
Okay, interesting. And obviously, those are some of the welcoming remarks and just letting us know where our guests are coming from this evening. And as Roderick mentioned, we have brought the powerhouses of the game of basketball this evening, and we will be discussing all things basketball. Now, let me go to, I can see that Shemaine seems to have left us, but as she tries to come back, we will go on with the conversation. So let me start with you, Peter. Now, as federations, obviously, when we look at the broader picture with regards to the game of basketball from a continental perspective, one thing that goes without mention is the Basketball Africa League. And I want to kickstart the conversation with you from there. Malawi has been quite active recently. You guys have been traveling across the SADC region, playing basketball in different countries, participating, exchange programs, and all these things. So from you, I just want to find out, how is the local league preparing itself for the opportunities of the Basketball League Africa?
Well, thank you for that. It's indeed, Malawi has been participating. We've been very busy making sure that we are out there participating in the competitions that are organized. Recently, I think we've seen the growth in exchange programs with our neighboring countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa. We've been there. Our teams have been going there to play basketball. We've seen teams from Zambia, Zimbabwe coming to Malawi to play basketball, Tanzania as well. So I think the exposure that we've gained from there, and also the excitement that we've seen that we need to participate more, has brought that hunger in our basketball to say we want to go out there and conquer and represent the region, the southern part of Africa. So in preparation, we have strengthened our leagues. We have made sure that our leagues are of good standard, making sure that the teams that are participating, they are following the guidelines that are put out there by FIBA. What we did is making sure that the game officials are on top of their game, because if we manage to put the game officials on top of their game, we are able to play a game at the top level. So in that way, it has transferred the same level was transferred to the athletes. So if you see Malawi basketball in the past 3-4 years, it has grown very quickly. That we are able to go to Zambia and say we will beat you guys, and then we'll go there and beat some teams in Zambia. Previously, Zambian teams could come here and beat us. We could go to Zambia, we'll come back with nothing. But nowadays we can travel to Zambia, Zimbabwe, come up with good results. It's all because of what we've been doing as a federation. As a federation, when we came into power, we said, can we make more partnerships? Partnerships locally and partnerships with internal bodies and our fellow federations around us. If you, I'll tell you now, I can go to my fellow federations. I'm not a visitor there. I'm home because we've got partnerships. We can interact at any time and exchange ideas on how we can run the game. So this has helped us a lot to transform the same to Malawi basketball. We have a proper structure that is working, working together. It's not in isolation. From the federation to the affiliated zones, now going back.
Peter.
Yes.
Peter, let me just stop you right there. We will get to the issue of structure later on the program. And I must make mention to everybody watching that obviously we will from time to time be able to refer to the comments, as we're not just here to create a platform where you, Secretary Generals, talk to yourselves, but where you can also interact with people not only from your country, but from different countries within the SADC regions, or those that are present on this particular platform this evening. So Malawi Basketball Association, thank you for tuning in. I know that you're watching. We've got Charlene, Mike, Alsa, who's watching us, Iliam, everybody, you're welcome. Now, let me get to Charmaine. Charmaine, the only lady on the platform this evening. I'm sorry, I'll keep on talking about this, Charmaine, okay, because I'm excited that you're here with us.
I see that.
Okay, so Charmaine, just bring us up to speed. We know a lot has been happening within the union, the Basketball Union of Zimbabwe. As a person from Zambia, trust me, we keenly follow what's happening over there. There's always banter on social media between Zambia and Zimbabwe with regards to the game of basketball. So just bring us up to speed. What is really happening within the union with respect preparation for the Basketball League Africa, and what opportunity has it brought specifically for the union?
So I think the biggest thing among all of the things, like what Peter mentioned, is really just an issue of the exposure that everyone gets, or that the region gets. So Basketball Africa League has brought about a platform where not only our players, but our coaches, our technical officials, the people that can be organizing the games, can get a chance to get that exposure to be part of a competition of that scale, of that magnitude. So that is definitely the first thing that that is there, just from a participation point of view. I think in terms of the opportunities that are there and what we have done, I think as Malawi, and maybe probably as you'll probably hear, the answers may be similar in the whole region. It's really just an issue of strengthening your club structures. The more competition that we have on a club level, the better your teams are going to be as we go into BAL. So for the past 3 seasons, my memory is not helping me right now. We have tried to change the structure of the national league, or the national championships that we have been playing. We have got 10 provinces in Zimbabwe. We have about 7 or 8 that will be actively playing at any given time. So usually we would just ask for teams from all of the provinces to come into the national championships. We have then tried to change the format, or we are trying a new format where instead of we have 32 teams, 32 men's teams at the national championships. We are trying to trim it down so that we have the best of the best coming up to the finals. So we are now doing it after the provinces play their competitions, and then we do zonal qualifiers, so that we can, after that, we then also come up to the National League. We are also trying to mimic the sort of competitions that FIBA does, so that we start getting used to that level of competition, or that type of a structure from a club level, from a national level. So we have been doing that. Even little things like making sure we've got a shot clock and a scoreboard. It may not work every time. It may not be possible every time, whether it is a shortage of the equipment or a shortage of electricity, but the plan will be there to sort of mimic the level of competition that will be there at the FIBA competitions. So I think for us, apart from our players and our coaches, we're also excited about our FIBA officials. We have now 3 FIBA referees that have been appointed, as well as 3 FIBA commissioners. I'm one of them, by the way. I'm the first female commissioner in Zimbabwe. So we're excited that those are the sort of opportunities that are, thank you, that are going to be available as well for the technical officials as the BAL rolls out in our zone.
Okay, thank you very much, Charmaine. And you brought out quite interesting points with regards specifically what it is that the Basketball Union of Zimbabwe is doing to be able to align and prepare for the Basketball League Africa opportunity. Now, let me come to Roderick. Roderick, we've heard what the Union of Zimbabwe is doing based on their strategic plan, obviously, and what we'd like to hear from the Zambian perspective. What is it that we're doing specifically to start aligning and preparing for the opportunity that the Basketball Africa League presents to the continent?
Yeah, thank you very much, Watson, and I'm glad that there's this opportunity just to highlight some of how Zambia is aligned itself with the Basketball Africa League. You may be aware that as a federation, we were a part of the competition BAL when it was launched, and we have been participating every time when there's BAL, starting with the Unza Pesas, who even went to Rwanda, Kigali, and they had passed the first phase of the road to BAL. After that, you saw Matero Magic has never shied away. They've represented us well in competitions. And now we have Munali Suns. Lessons have been learned. As you may be aware, this is the most prestigious tournament that Africa is experiencing at the club level. And yes, it's an opportunity that has come for not only players, but for federations also, because federations encompasses a lot of things, inclusive of the technical staff. We're talking about referees, we're talking about commissioners, we're talking about our coaches. And as now going to your specific question, as what Zambia Basketball Federation is deliberately doing to align itself and its clubs to fully participate and competitively do so, our setup is in such a way that just like Ishamen and many other federations present in this conversation, we are made of 10 provinces and we call them associations. And the most competitive ones, it's not a brainer. It's nothing that no one knows. That doesn't know. We have the MBA, the Midlands Basketball League or Association. Then we have the Copper Belt Basketball Association. So what we do is that at the beginning of every season, these associations will play their leagues and they all aspire to qualify for the national championship. So the top 4 teams in each region qualify for the national championships. And it pans out that as we get closer to the finish of the competitions, all the elite clubs we're talking about, for instance, in the men's category, you'll find the presence of Matero Magic, you'll find the presence of Munali Suns, you are going to find NAPSA Hurricanes, and these are our highest or the best clubs that we have. And the introduction of Basketball Africa League has motivated the competition in terms of who qualifies to the national championships, because everyone now is eyeing to represent the country in this competition. So the quality of players that are coming in is amazing. The level of competition that is being demonstrated even at the league level, you'll be amazed because they know that beyond this, there's a competitive league that they're aspiring to feature. And we have seen the influx of even contracting foreign players to come and play in our league, or because we want to be fully equipped in doing so. And as a federation, we have aligned ourselves with the FIBA structures and also with the FIBA programs that should help us attain competitive basketball. And we are talking about referees training, we are talking about coaches training. It's a process that we've started and we have participated in many of these processes. And I can safely say that my colleagues in this room, they are aware what threat Zambia poses at this competition. Even as we go to Botswana, they are aware that Munali Suns are bringing nothing but quality. Thank you.
Come on, Rodrick. Come on, Rodrick. I know that you guys are as good as on the court. You know, the competition that is on the court, whenever, you know, specific teams representing your federations are meeting, is slowly coming on this platform, and I like it. But let me bring on Tati from Botswana just to let us know and fill us in on what it is that Botswana is doing to align with the Basketball Africa League and the opportunity that it presents. And most importantly, you guys are of interest to Roderick and myself. In fact, to all of us on this platform, because it so coincidentally happens that clubs coming from these particular countries that are represented here will be meeting in Botswana. So over to you. Just tell us, how are the preps going? Are you ready?
Thank you very much. First, let me say we were quite excited to be hosting, the rest of the Zone 6. As Botswana, we have put in place, of course, you should remember that it is Dolphins basketball that is hosting. But because as a federation, our interest in basketball is very much in ensuring that everything goes well, because whatever happens, it goes back to the association. We've put in place an LOC to prepare for these upcoming games that are happening on the 17th to the 22nd of the coming of October. Now, just to give you a background in terms of our league, over the years we have had just one national league. If you know, Botswana is quite a vast country, and the league incorporated all the teams across the country. But we have most of our leagues our teams in and around Gaborone, which is the capital city, and it's down south, and some in the northern part of the country around Francistown. Now, what we realized is that it was not helping other teams in other areas of the countries to take part in this league because of the distance that they have to travel. So starting last year, we decided that we're going to break the league into two. That is the north and the south. Now, this makes it easy for teams to travel shorter distances, and it allows other teams from other regions of the country to take part in the league. And what happens is that teams from the north, the number one, the champions, and number two, then they will proceed to the national, where then would have the national champions. So we believe the change of structure would really boost, and not only that, it's aligning to what is happening, with BAL. We have the first round, and then 16 the second round, and so on. So we're trying to develop something like that. Now, talking about BAL, now when you put in a structure like LOC, the LOC brings in a lot. It brings in administrators, it brings in tinker officials, it brings in spectators, volunteers, sponsors, and everybody. Now, once you start working on this, preparing for the games, you are also training local, stakeholders, players, and everybody. Now, the belief is that by the end or after this game, there will be a clear legacy, in the sense that people would have developed to a level, international level, and this will help grow the game of basketball in the country. So we are at an advanced stage. I can't say much right now, but we are hoping in the next week or so, a lot will be in place, and we'll be in a better position to communicate with the rest of our zone members in terms of what is going on, what to expect. But I can say we are quite excited. The Dolphins is quite excited. They are training very hard. And remember again, with BAL, just participating alone, it boosts the club that is participating, because now you start practicing, training, ensuring that you boost your squad, and by doing that, you are also inspiring other teams out there to work very hard, so that they could up their game and be the next participant. So we're quite excited.
Okay, interesting stuff there. Thank you very much, Tati. And we have Matero Magic. Talk about the devil, Roderick, who mentioned Matero Magic. So Matero Magic, surprisingly, is watching us from the United States of America. I won't ask how, but we welcome you anyway. And before I get to the question in our comment section, there's a very important question that I want to get off my chest. Now, regional synergies, I know that all of you agree with me. are very important when it comes to promoting the game of basketball generally. So I would like to find out from all of you that are present on this particular panel. First of all, I'll start with you, Peter. Do you think that federations or associations in the region are speaking to each other?
Yeah, I think that's a huge topic, and it's one of the key topics for our region, for our region success. As of now, I would say we are speaking to each other, but we're not yet there. We are in the pipeline. For our growth as a region, what I feel is we need our countries, our objectives or goals of our countries should complement the goals of the region. So what I've seen is mostly we are isolated. We as countries, not as a region. So if we set our goals as countries to complement our regional goals, we'll be able to be a successful region. So I'd say we're not yet there, but we're in the pipeline to get there.
Okay, interesting there. Let me now just put a rider, and I'll direct this rider to Roderick. Roderick, are you there? Okay, Roderick is not here with us, but as we wait for Roderick to be able to connect his audio, let me throw this to Charmaine. Charmaine, Peter has raised something very, very important. He talks about goals being aligned from country, that is federation level, to regional level. How do you think this can best be done?
I think we've already started the first few steps of that. I think part of the one of the initial conversations started in Mozambique when we all met at the FIBA Africa Congress, which is when, you know, in as much as you'll see what everybody is doing, as Peter is saying, everybody is working in their own silo towards their own goals. And so now that the board for our zone has been finalized, and I know we are meant to be having our first initial board meeting, or zone meeting rather, in the next month or two. I think that should be where we'll then set the agenda for the zone as we go forward. I think it was just a conversation that was never had, not necessarily to say there was any resistance or hesitance from any member federation. I think maybe it was just a conversation that was never had, and everybody was working hard to get their own countries to meet their goals and their own objectives. But as Peter is saying, we've now realized in part of our conversations that we will do better if we work on it together. I think one of the issues that we discussed while we're in Mozambique was an issue of more competition in the zone without necessarily waiting for it to be a FIBA Africa competition. I know before my time, I know there were competitions like Zinaboza, and those are the sort of things that we're trying to see if we can bring back a club championships, but without necessarily needing it to be leading to BAL, or maybe to be a friendly to prepare for BAL, or national friendlies as we are preparing for our FIBA Afrobasket and our Afro-Can competitions, or when Malawi hosts a FIBA level training clinic for coaches or for referees, to be able to invite people from around the zone so that everybody else can benefit. I think it's really now just a matter of sharing the information and understanding what we're doing, because FIBA is really coming to the party these days, with resources, with programs, with initiatives, and obviously they won't be able to give every single country in the zone, but whichever country in the zone gets anything, if we can share that information and that initiative with the other federations, I think we'll be able to get everybody to benefit from the little and the lot that we get from FIBA.
Interesting submission there, Charmaine, and you raised something quite pertinent that I will throw to everybody to weigh in on. But Roderick, earlier on, Peter raised something very, very important. You know, the issue of federations beginning to align and speaking to each other. And Charmaine, again, I'll borrow from her thought. She has talked about enhancing the competitive edge in the region through tournaments, through various exchange programs. You know, federations not developing an attitude of once you get funding from FIBA, you hold it to yourselves and you don't want to talk to anybody. We're just seeing pictures on social media. Now that we're in an era of social media, we're just seeing everybody else smiling and showing off what they're doing. But of course, the need to supplement each other. Now, talking about the issue of tournaments, Malawi hosts the Bravehearts International Tournament. Now, I believe, as Charmaine rightly mentioned, it's one of those avenues that can be used to promote and gauge the growth of the game and competition in all our respective countries. But we've seen that there have been challenges with participation, people withdrawing on the last minute and things like that. So I just want to understand from you, Roderick. We know that there were Zambian teams that were scheduled to travel and they were not able to travel. Are you able, Roderick, to tell us what really transpired there, or basically how this, you know, negatively impacts the objective of growing the game at a regional level?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I apologize, my network is misbehaving. I should state from the onset that Zambia Basketball Federation is among those federations that are fostering cooperation and the collaboration within the basketball community, particularly within the Zone 6. You can attest to this. All my colleagues that are here, we are working very closely. Charmaine is like my other SG that sits in Zambia. We work very closely with her. Gomani is my colleague, and we yes almost on every issue that concerns our federations. Titi, I should apologize that on my part that I haven't much reached out to you. We enjoyed a very inaugural presence in Mali when we met, and I think we developed some ideas there. We will catch up, but suffice to say that Zambia Basketball Federation is in no way antagonizing with any of the federations. We enjoy a very conducive and favorable relationship with each and everyone. Zimbabwe, we are enjoying our lives together. Most of our players that are in this country are coming from across, and vice versa in most cases. Malawi is always enjoying most of our superstars in Zambia as they are learning to align themselves with what Zambia has put up. And I should congratulate Gomani. You are doing very well. Thank you for catching up. Now, coming to the specific question that you asked me, my fellow SGs here will attest that as a federation, when it comes to competitions that are being organized either by our clubs or indeed our associations or leagues, we are there to facilitate and to promote. In the case of the Bravehearts tournament that was which you are talking about, as the Zambia Basketball Federation, we knew that that tournament was there, but it was purely for clubs that were interested and that were invited, that were meant to do all the logistics and also, among many other things, seek permission from their, not from the federation, but from their associations to begin with. And once the association accepts their absence from the league to go and participate in a regional tournament like the one that was in Malawi, communication comes to the federation to do the necessary clearance, including authority to travel. That is done through my office to go to National Sports Council and eventually to the ministry. I should attest to you that there was no such communication that reached my office. The only thing I heard and I saw on social media is that we were being put in the equation when we were never approached. So what I gather from the failure for Zambian teams not to participate it was purely the fault of the clubs not adhering to the system, which they know very well, and they did not do it on time, and they couldn't logistically, and also in terms of governance purposes, they couldn't just travel. So it's not anything to do with the Zambia Basketball Federation. As I told you, there was no correspondence of any sort to seek permission for any of my Zambian teams to travel to Malawi. I hope this answers fully your question.
Thank you very much, Roderick. It does answer the question. And let me now go to a comment section. We've got some questions coming in, and Iliam is on dial, ladies and gentlemen, this evening. But on this question, I'll start with you, Tati. Iliam talks about what plans, Federation, and I want all of you at the back of your minds to prepare to weigh in on this, because it is very important for your respective countries. Iliam is asking, what plans, for example, in the Zambian context, the two competitive associations that we have is simply the NBA and the CBA. There are two. The rest are growing and coming up to speed and catching up, and there's tremendous progress. We've got teams from these respective other associations that are already taking part within the championships at different levels. But from you, Tati, from a Botswana perspective, earlier on you mentioned that obviously basketball is still centered around the capital city. What initiatives is the BBA doing to be able to ensure that all these other parts can be at par with regards to competition and growth as to what we're seeing in the capital city?
Okay. Like I said earlier on, one of the first things that we did was to, restructure the league, just to make sure that, we have active basketball in these two zones. And if you have an idea of how Botswana is structured, most of the major towns and cities are on the eastern part of the country along the railway line. So by structuring it in this new format, it enables teams along all those areas to participate in basketball. And not only that, we are also working and encouraging our clubs to ensure that for every club that participates in the National League should have a youth team, should have a ladies team. By so doing, we are trying to bring in numbers. We're also trying to capacitate our clubs to do more. Because if you remember, as a national association, we can only promote, facilitate, and more especially develop the youth. But it's upon the club, our clubs, to really be strong, and our role is to empower them. And once they're empowered, then everything will be easy. We're also trying to bring closer other basketball promoters, private promoters, because with their help, then we are able to reach those areas where maybe our resources, are not able to allow us to reach to. So it is all these initiatives, put together, that will help grow the game of basketball in the country.
All right. Thank you very much, Tati, for that submission. Let me now come to you again, Shemaine. One of the issues that Iliam raises in the comment section has to do with what it is that the Basketball Union of Zimbabwe, for example, is doing to champion the agenda of bringing back the club championships, say, for women. Those days, club championship was a very big thing. I remember Zambian teams used to travel quite a lot. There was huge competition, but of course, the Angolans always had the last laugh. But anyway, that is history. Things are changing. Now, what is it that the Basketball Union of Zimbabwe is doing to be able to champion this at regional level, to ensure that club championships for ladies is not dead? It is not history, but it is something that we can still look to, and ladies who are playing basketball can still aspire to.
Yeah, he does bring up a good point. You know, we're, as much as the BAL has brought up all of these good things, it has also threatened women's basketball and women's club championships. I think as a country, we are definitely still playing. We play our national league and our national championships for men at the same time as our women. We have even gone up to a level of, you know, on the days when the prime times that people usually want to see games, your 6 p.m., your 8 p.m., we do usually try to make sure that we also put our women's games there so that we can just show that we are still recognizing the importance of our women teams and our women games. I think on a club level, on a continental level, I'm sorry, this is a question that we have asked the zone. We have asked the zone leadership to also answer us, to say, we know that there's the men's championships in the form of BAL, but what are we doing for the women's club championships? And I know last year when we had offered to host, when we had bid to host the BAL qualifiers, like this competition that Botswana is hosting, we wanted to make it a joint competition with the women so that the women's club championships can also still have their own competition. Because what will usually end up happening is, if we don't have the qualifier, they will take the country that either bid to host or is able to travel, you know, to wherever the next level of the competition is, which in our zone is usually Mozambique and Angola, like he rightfully said. So we are pushing to still host this competition. Unfortunately, it won't be hosted right now at the same time in Botswana, but we do still have a bit of a window until the end of November to host this competition. Zimbabwe is definitely open to hosting it. I know Zambia and Malawi have also been looking to host competitions, so maybe it will also be in one of those countries. But it's not a competition that we are going to let die if we have anything to do with it. Certainly not if I'm still part of the zone and I have anything to do with it. So if we can just be allowed to see what we can do as a zone in terms of getting this competition back to life, if we can put it that way.
Okay, thank you very much, Charmaine. Let me now get back to Peter. Earlier on, we've heard a very, very important point, which is the issue of resources. Tati raised the issue of resources, and money answers all things, as they say. So what I would like to find out from you, from the Malawi Basketball Association, are there deliberate strategies from the association that you have specifically meant to be able to engage or lure the private sector to provide the needed funding for sponsorship? I don't know what's happening in Malawi with football, but I definitely know that the Malawi Football Federation or Association is financially doing better than the Malawi Basketball Association. I can bet on that. Unless I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected. So what is it that the NBA is doing, Peter, to be able to ensure that there is investment, financial investment in the sport of basketball?
Yeah, you're very right. The football part is hugely financed by government and other stakeholders. As for basketball, throughout the years, we've been trying so hard to find that finance, which can help us in developing basketball or doing our activities. But it's been a challenge that we sponsors are not coming through. Even government subvention is just minimal. It cannot support all our agendas. So deliberately, we sat down and say, let's come up with something. What can we do? So we looked at other associations or sporting disciplines that are facing a similar challenge with us. So if you look, there's so many sporting disciplines that are not funded, like basketball in countries. So we sat down and say, what can we do to get funding? Because if you go to a company to say, can you support this program? You find that they all say there's no money. But football goes there, they get the money right there. So we lobbied the government to say, can government help us in finding support from stakeholders, especially companies that are doing very good? We see they are establishing profits on the press, showing that they're making a lot of money. But when you go there, they're telling you that we don't have money. So one of the
Peter,
yes. Yes.
Just allow me to interject you a little bit over there. Now, when government or other corporates seem to delay a little bit to be able to give in money, usually there are problems that have to do maybe with structure, or when it comes to sponsorship. Does the NBA provide proper, well articulated and tabulated value that these associations can be able to derive if they pumped in money into the league?
Yeah, we when we go there, we tell them it's not about benefiting basketball only or the sport only. We also try to show the sponsors or the companies to say there should be a dual benefit from both ends. So we've developed what we call a marketing section of the federation, which works towards that. So when we go there, we bring our proposals. In our proposals, we put up what the sponsors will benefit from sponsoring the game. So in a nutshell, I would say it's challenging. We can't get the sponsorship, but we're still working on strategies on how we can get that sponsorship from government as well as from other stakeholders.
All right, interesting submission there, Peter. Thank you very much. And those of you that are watching us, remember to tell us where you're watching from, and of course, what your question or contribution is to this important discussion. Mike Howard Banda joining us from Apollo Military Base. We appreciate your presence. Gosaham Dulu, a very good friend of mine there, joining us and following the conversation keenly. Thank you. Matero Magic has a very interesting question over there. And on this one, I would love all of you to come in. But on the issue of sponsorship, let me come to you, Tati. In Botswana, progressively, I've heard Malawi has got a marketing section. And I hope that's a dedicated department, Peter, by the way, within the association to be able to sell the various products that the association can offer with the purpose of securing sponsorship. Now, Tati, in Botswana, do you have such a structure? And as a federation, how are you interfacing with potential sponsors to be able to pump in money into the game? Mind you, we know that Botswana has got diamonds, eh? You guys have got diamonds there, so money shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. Now, one thing that I must highlight is that during the COVID pandemic, we are lucky to work with FIBA to develop FIBA Plus strategy. And one of our goals in our strategy is grow income, right? Now, through this goal, we have clear intentions in terms of what we want to achieve. Over the years, we've been, hugely dependent on government funding. Sports in Botswana is funded by the government, and we are happy because it helps us a great deal. Now we realize that because of the COVID, the funding was very, very little, and we went on a drive, which the plan which we are still developing as we speak. We have our publicity secretary, under which we have a marketing committee. And at the moment, we are developing a clear strategy in terms of how we're going to be approaching our sponsors or potential sponsors. One of the strategy is to, to create a corporate identity through, ensuring that we rent, the flooring, the courts, the shot clocks to anyone who wants to use them. If you want to use them, you come to our association, we give you our equipment and you give us a little money. We are also trying to get a tinker partner. Here we're looking at merchandise. We want to, have replica kits of our national team jersey, so that fans, anyone can buy, and by so doing we'll be getting a bit of money. Not only that, we are currently in discussion with multiple companies, looking at how we can partner, because it's very, very important to have clear guidelines in how our partnership will benefit both. We're also talking to our national broadcaster, BTV, in terms of how we can work together. With BAL coming, there's an opportunity because we are approaching so many companies. And by approaching so many companies, we're not only looking at the short term, we're also looking at what we can get in the long term.
Okay, so we seem to have lost Tati over there. I believe it's due to network. Okay.
Yes.
Tati is back. Tati, are you able to hear me?
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know. I was saying with BAL,
I mean, we were able to hear you correctly just before network there tried to pull a fast one on us. But let me bring in Roderick quickly on the same line of thought. Roderick, we are talking about financing, which from what has been submitted so far, I can clearly see is a common challenge between all the federations that are represented here. Now, when we talk about financing, Roderick, one of the biggest things that obviously corporates look at is the issue of adherence to corporate governance, and most importantly, the issue of accountability. Bring us in. Is the ZBF, the Zambia Basketball Federation, on course with regards corporate governance and improving accountability to be able to create necessary structures that can be favorable for investment?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so it's common ground. The challenges are similar. In basketball, we are not like FIFA. FIBA does not give us resources directly. I don't know of any federation that FIBA is supporting financially. All they do is support us with the programs. And as such, it poses a huge challenge on the basics, on where the federation should start with. Apart from Botswana, I don't know of any government that provide grants to associations of different disciplines. Zambia, the government has made pronouncements that they will be giving us grants. I was in a meeting today where the minister was reaffirming their commitment to treating each discipline as equal. And these pronouncements have even been made at the top level, even by our Republican president, that there is no minor sport in Zambia. I'm sure you all know that pronouncement. But when it comes to putting it into practice, we have faced challenges in terms of accessing the needed support from government. However, it's the time Zambia Basketball Federation looks within itself on how it can generate resources to run the game. And as you alluded to the point of governance, good governance is something which we have put on top of the agenda as Zambia Basketball Federation. You may recall that when we first came into office, some of us who have bounced back into office, one of the things that we needed to do was to work on good governance. And what is good governance? We needed to refine a constitution that was made in 1960 something, and it was still workable when we came into power. So when we came, we needed to align the constitution with the much needed needs of the modern game. Apart from that, we found a federation or an association which had no strategic plan. We worked closely with the National Olympics Committee as well as other stakeholders who put us to paces, and I can proudly say that Zambia Basketball Federation has got a modern constitution. It has a strategic plan that is going up to 2026. And as we speak, we are having meetings with all the commissions to align their programs with the strategic plan. In our strategic plan, good governance comes top of the agenda. As you may be aware, no associate corporate and otherwise would want to associate itself with any organization that is not able to demonstrate this good governance behavior. So Zambian Basketball Federation, we are slow to kick it, to show the fruits now, but what I can assure you is that the fundamentals have been met. All we are doing now is to align ourselves with the strategic plan and speak to it and also put it into effect. And it is this strategic plan that the corporate world have to buy in and see which programs within our strat they can depict and sponsor or partner with us. You may agree with me that in the modern world, it's very difficult just to have one umbrella sponsor. So our strategy is that we are going to the corporate world with different products and different pieces of our operations, and each one of them, whichever speaks to their social corporate responsibilities, will align themselves with that. And you'll see money pouring into the federation soon. It was difficult in the past because of these governance issues.
Interesting, Roderick. We can't wait for that money to start pouring in so that we can all get socked. Charmaine, let me bring you to the fold. And with you, I would like to move on from the issue of monies briefly. But Matero Magic asks a very important question. And here we are hearing from Matero Magic. The question here is, talking of collaboration in Southern region, are there any plans to have a more cost-effective player transfer clearance? Because looking at the most teams in the region, sponsorship is the biggest problem, and the FIBA transfer fee is something that is a headache to most teams, for it is a huge amount. How can federations speak to each other on that, Charmaine?
I hope you can hear me, Vincent. Sorry, I changed devices.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Pyramid asks a pertinent question. Fortunately, probably a question that we can't solve in meeting or even at a zonal level. We have tried this. I think the federations in this meeting will attest. I think we tried to have interfederational relations to just, okay, Roderick, who wants to come from Club A to your Club B, what can we do? And we'll have our arrangement, if we can put it this way. But you see, because of the nature of our sports, because we are not yet professional, we're still amateurs, our players are really looking for a chance that they can to be able to make some living out of sport. After Roderick and I have spoken on behalf of Zimbabwe and Zambia, said player will just appear in Botswana. Thing you see they're for Dolphins in Botswana. Maybe they're playing for Bats or Unilever in Malawi. So it's been a more of a headache for us than the headache that is the fee amount to try and track our players on a federation level. Something that we did think even up until the better part of this year and our last season that was finished, we're still doing it. I think as a zone, we now also saying if the clubs, the players are not understanding what we are trying to do or what we are trying to avoid, because we are trying to avoid the $250, 250 Swiss francs actually, that everybody to pay every time player moves. But we know the situation in our team. Most of our teams are owned by individuals. Individuals can probably not afford that $250 every time they want to borrow someone from Zimbabwe or from Eswatini or from Botswana or from wherever players coming. But if there's no longer any level of responsibility and accountability, it ends a headache for the administrators when it is time, particularly finals and national championships. Because when we now want to play B, you realize you have someone say, no, but whereas in Botswana last this player, how are they playing here in Harare? And now we have to be answerable. And I'm calling Roderick, what's going on? With the player that lent to you now in Botswana, Roderick says, Charmaine, I don't even know. Last weekend here, playing in the Olympic Center or a magic or so it's a bigger headache for us as administrators. And the honest truth is the map, the more organized, structured way for player movement, particularly if our clubs and our players will not work with us, in arrangements that we're trying to do, because they are laws. And so if they want to continue to utilize the loophole and to go around the system, to circumvent the system, maybe then the problem is the system, and maybe the system must change. But this is a conversation that we had as well on a leadership level, and really still trying to make it affordable for one. But the truth of the matter is that the policy FIBA, the policy from FIBA, is that any movement should be governed FIBA map. So whatever we're doing really as a zone, and understand each other on a level, policy is there,
Okay.
and it's FIBA map. Anything else we're doing, we now need to ask our clubs, players, to also work to make it work.
Okay, interesting, and thank you very much for that submission, Shemaine. Tati, let me come to you. From our comment section, Sam Rismover Taylor raises something I feel is pertinent and worth weighing in on. He talks about Rome obviously not being built in one day and pushing for sponsorship being a challenge that we can all agree to on this particular one. But he says NBA teams earn profits from ticket sales, such as, brands, maybe brand endorsements, jerseys, whatever. But he talks about, from a Zambian perspective, you'll find that even at club level, such structures do not exist. Shemaine has rightly mentioned, most of these teams are owned by individuals that are personally funding these teams from their pockets. Something that we should be looking to change by collaborating both the federation, associations, and team owners. So from a Botswana perspective, how is the organization at team level? Do we have individuals owning these teams? Is the association engaging these individuals to be able to put brains together to see how best, like you mentioned earlier on, you talked about replica jerseys for the national team and everything. How are you collaborating with clubs at team level to be able to ensure that revenue can be realized?
Okay, thanks very much. One of the major problems that we have in Botswana, and I'm sure is it's all over Africa, is that first, let me say, in Botswana, the law is such that clubs cannot be companies but can be societies. Now that brings a problem because you need 20 or so people to come together and form a team. There can always be some arrangement, but legally that is basically impossible. And until maybe the law changes such that someone can own a team, then it become easier to even bring in sponsors or partners who have money and can run the club. Now, having said that, if you have 2-3 people who do not even have money, forming a team, that brings a problem. In the sense that they don't have, any financial backing. Number 2, we have challenges in terms of, owning facilities, basketball courts. Teams don't own facilities. There are few teams that have facilities, institutional teams that have facilities. So issues of ticketing becomes a problem. And you realize that for us here, we find one common place and then teams would come in, for a weekend and play their league games. And it becomes very difficult to do ticketing. One, you also want to have fans coming in. We tried this year during the national finals. We tried it, and to a certain extent it worked. But remember, it was nationals. But we are hoping and we believe that with time, as few teams, have facilities of their own, then we could start experimenting and see what would happen if we charge. But most importantly, like I said, we are trying to get a tanker sponsor. Just like the NBA, where maybe Nike or any brand would say who dress national teams in the league. We're hoping if we get such a tanker sponsor, we have talked to a few, then they'll be able to dress all the teams and they'll get some money from that. So we hope and believe that in the near future, we'll get this running and benefiting.
All right. Thank you very much, Tati, for that submission. Now, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, in 10 minutes' time, we should be able to wrap up our conversation. So the next question that we'll handle in 10 minutes must be handled with at least brief answers. I know there's a lot that needs to be said, but hey, you are lucky because you have me. So create a part 2 for this particular conversation. And I take it that your presence here means you are going to come again on this presence for part 2. Charmaine, there's a follow-up question for you. But before we get to the follow-up question for you, Charmaine, Martin Muchena, who's watching us right now, and let me also just acknowledge Shula Chanda, who's watching us from YouTube and is watching all the way from within Lusaka. Thank you very much, Shula, for joining us. Now, Martin says, the problem I have is having laid down plans that doesn't have a follow-up action plan. So now we have games in 2024, and we have seen East Africa already doing trials for all age groups. Why is Southern Africa always have the last minute rush? So there are these games that Martin is talking about. I believe as SGs, you are aware of these games, but his concern is our friends in East Africa are already hosting trials, for these 2024 games, but here nothing is happening. So let me throw this to Peter. What is the NBA doing about this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a concern across for our athletes. As us as leaders, we face a lot of challenge most of the times when it comes to this, because of the same issue we spoke about, of funding and how do we prepare. Most of the time, we find that we have these programs handy and in good time, but when we start looking for the resources for such trials, it's not an easy task because there's always no funds there. So most of the times you start lobbying right now, but when the funding is coming, you find that it's already close. I don't know, maybe it's a habit that's there, but the funding always comes when the games are getting close or when the event is getting close, because that's when the sponsors or the ones that are funding the program feels like now we have to release the funds, because most of the time you find that when you go there, you find they'll tell you that the money is already allocated to something else. Wait. So as leaders, we keep on pushing for that until maybe something comes up. But basically, we know these programs and we start lobbying right away when we hear the programs are ready. But for the funding to come to us, it's always late. So that's the problem that's there. Maybe my colleagues.
Okay, Peter. Okay, Peter, thank you very much. Obviously, your colleagues will back you up on that. But let me come to Roderick. Roderick, also briefly, Martin has raised this issue of last-minute preparations, whilst our friends seem to be more organized and are doing these trials and doing everything necessary to prepare for these particular games. What is ZBF doing, or maybe either at supervisory level, but just to ensure that there is preparation for these 2024 games? And to that, Mike Howard Banda wants to know why the league doesn't have insurance for players. Those two, Roderick, in the briefest way that you can.
Very much, Watson, and thank you for those questions. Very pertinent, very essential. My colleague from Malawi has touched on a few of those answers. I will start with the last one, the insurance. You acknowledge the presence of Shula Chanda. Is one of my members at the executive level. Is the one that is heading our medical commission, and congratulations. And I've got the pleasure to announce him that is also head of commission for medical at the Zone 6 level executive board. And Charmaine, I think you are part of that. So through that commission, as Zambia Basketball Federation, Dr. Shula would attest is here that we have a plan. He has developed a medical plan that he covers one of these questions that the affiliates are worried about. So we have a plan to cover all ZBF players that are involved at any level, and we'll be rolling it and announcing it very soon. Coming to the other question of the preparedness of the 2024 games, I should mention to the public and everyone else that we are on course. Through our National Technical Department, we are mobilizing a team that is starting with the technical team. We're in the process of putting up a permanent team of the technical committee that will look at the selection of the national team coaches at all tiers, and this includes all those games that are coming up in 2024. Once those structures have been put up, which will be done, I think, within a month, we are now going to come up with those criteria of selecting the teams at all levels to participate in any coming up competition. So we are very alive to that, and we are on course. We are very much aware of the competitions, and we are ready to make sure that come 2024, everything will be ready, apart from the financial muscle that we need to lobby government and the stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Roderick, for that submission. Charmaine, a follow-up question for you from Material Magic says, how possible is it to replicate a FIBA mapping system on a regional level? As you earlier put it, it's hard to track player movement in the region, but if federations can come together and create a system to map all players and issue them with regional IDs, Material Magic believes this is something that would help. Briefly on that line of thought, Charmaine.
Possibility, nothing is impossible. The issue really whether or not is allowed. For better word right now. The issue is whether or not to be within confines the mandate do something that members are doing our federation arrangements. You know, they're just understandings. But I don't know about how legal to have a standalone something for it's a good idea. I think we will also take it up the leadership of to find out from us from FIBA Africa if this is something that maybe the zone can implement. It will not, however, absolve us from having to use FIBA, particularly when we know to zonal competitions. Like if we're going to BAL, we're going to need to register players on the zonal thing. on the map. If we want to get it from Tanzania, you know, they're not going to be able to come into whatever our system will have. We'll still have to go to FIBA map. So it's something to look into, and I do hope it can work out. It can quite a bit of our headaches, but not prevent us, stop us from having to use FIBA map completely.
All right, interesting take over there. Tati, let me bring you on board right now. And one of the issues that I believe would not be justice for us to ignore or not tackle, even as we get to the closure of this particular conversation, is the issue of gender representation. Now, the subject of gender, and I always talk about this on different forums, has been a thorny issue not only in sport, but just across different sectors altogether. As the Botswana Basketball Association is putting in structures and implementing various initiatives to ensure growth of the game, to what extent do you prioritize, and what exactly specifically are you doing to ensure that basketball in Botswana has gender parity when it comes to representation?
I think I love the question. One of the things that the current board did when they came in was to form the Women's Commission. And not only did we form the Women's Commission, we also ensured that it is part of the board. So in our board, we have the chair of the Women's Commission to ensure that all issues of women are addressed. And when you look at what we've been able to achieve, number one, our president is a lady, and not just a lady, but a very able and powerful woman who is always advocating not just for women but for youth and everybody. We issues of inclusion are very, very important. Now, what the commission has done is that they've worked on a couple of things. One, they are always training women to make sure that they get involved in activities and not just be part of activities but play a huge role. We have a woman only tournament. This particular tournament is to ensure that women play without being overshadowed by men. Men, of course, participate by being fans, helping there and there, but it's a women-only tournament. If you look at our referees, we have 2 international referees, and both are women. We, like I said, also in our structure, in our policy, as we develop and change the structure, one of the requirements would be for you to call yourself a club, you should have youth and youth structure within the club. You should also have a women team. Now, we believe this will go a long way in ensuring that women are not left out, are involved all step of the way. So basically, as Botswana Basketball Association, we are really happy that we have been able to achieve this. We ensure that in all leadership positions, there's a very strong woman leading. Of course, we are not happy because if you look at our league, there are fewer ladies team, and we want to address that to ensure that ladies are given an opportunity. We also know that women experience more challenges compared to men. They have children. We during the COVID pandemic, we lost a lot of women because some, during that time, mostly depend on university going students. Some obviously are married, they have to take care of families and all of that. So we also need to make sure that within the funding that we get, we have a letter that we give to clubs that implement, this policy where a club should have a youth team and a women's club. Now, if you are able to do that, then we should be able to give you something in terms of funding to help you. So these are, efforts that we have put in as Botswana Basketball Association to ensure that women are included or issues of inclusion are covered. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Tati, from our comment section. Obviously, Dr. Shula there providing an update on what Roderick mentioned by saying our medical policy, meaning the ZBF medical policy, is currently being reviewed by the provincial basketball associations for their comments before rollout. Thank you very much, Doc, for that update, and of course, joining us from YouTube. And Ndenge provides a solution to Material Magic, and of course, supplementing what Shemaine said, that countries in Europe, they have a way of going around the issue of player movements or transfers within the region. They speak to each other, they come up with agreements, of course, in conformity to what is happening on the FIBA level. Joshua is watching us. Thank you very much. And as we get to close this show, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I know that there's a lot that we need to talk about, but we need to prepare and reserve energy for part 2. As we close, the issue that I want us to talk about is It was raised here. I think, Charmaine, you talked about our leagues not yet being professional leagues, but being amateur, and some call them semi-professional. I don't know what the semantical difference is there in comparison to reality, but that's a conversation for another day. So, Peter, as we get to wrap up, one, your final remarks, and two, does the association have a plan to turn the Malawi leagues or league into a professional league? Rome was not built in a day, borrowing from what one of our viewers said in the comment section. But are there such plans? And what is being done that you can point to as an association? And after you, Peter, Charmaine will come in.
All right, great, thanks. I think that's a direction to turn our leagues into to semi-professional, professional league. As a federation in Malawi, we already started on working on that. We just slowed down a little bit because of other challenges, but we had to look into that issue because within the system that we have other teams that are capable of turning into semi-professional or professional. Maybe they are doing something similar, but we just have to put it into a structure that is visible and workable. So we thought of starting a little bit slowly, identifying those teams that are able to do that. And we had a potential sponsor or a partner that was working with us into coming up with such a setup. We engage the teams that could be able to join into that kind of league to be able to become professional. So as a Malawi League, we are in the pipeline of doing that. And what we started, we know that we'll get there. As you already mentioned, Rome was not built in one day, but we know that we're in a direction that in the near future, we'll have that kind of a league. And we hope the whole zone, zone 6, is also doing the same. As Charmaine mentioned, in Mozambique, I think we had a good chat about several topics. One of it was this topic. So as a Malawi Federation, we're looking forward to see a league that is professional, semi-professional. In a nutshell, I would say that. My closing remarks, I would just want to thank you, my guy, for inviting us in this show. I think it's a very important show that I don't think this is the right time to have it. We're supposed to have it way back because the issues that we are discussing now, we could have discussed them way back, and maybe we could have been somewhere right now. But this is a good start. I'm looking forward to the next show, the part 2, which you've mentioned. We'll come back here, discuss issues. And to my colleagues, I think this is a platform that we can set up on our own, discussing issues within our zone, sharing ideas and brainstorming on solving solutions, coming up solutions for problems that challenges that we have. What I've noticed here is that the challenges that we have in different countries are the same challenges. That means if we sit down as a unit, we'll be able to conquer every challenge that we have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter, for that submission. Charmaine, the floor is yours. The issue of making sure that the Zimbabwean League becomes professional, and of course, your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, Vincent. I think for this one, it really baby steps for us. What we're working right now is to create the brand, is to create the product that we're going to then be able to sell off or to make it a commercial product, which is why we have tried to now come down to number of teams, 16 national championships. I know Harare, biggest playing province. I know the president likes to say the playing province in Africa. They've got about 50 clubs play in their league, but they've now come up with a concept called the Super 6, where it's only teams that are playing in the league. So really what we're trying to do is first have a product that can then start selling off. Only then can we start to, talk about franchises and selling franchises and making it something that people can invest in or want to put their money in. So for us right now, focus is create a sellable product on a level, on a national level, and hopefully companies and any other people can start to take us seriously and money in the sport, and then hopefully can eventually lead to the professionalization of the sport. Apart from that, though, I do want to thank you for this opportunity. Thanking my fellow entities that are also that took the time to and have the conversation with us. Peter said, really is just the thing. And if we did this every week, I don't know if we could exhaust everything we need to speak about, but having the conversation is definitely important. We can always benefit from hearing each other's point of view. So thank you so much for inviting me. I hope you've managed to gain something or benefit a little knowledge of Zimbabwe basketball going from my contributions here.
All right. Thank you very much, Charmaine, for that. Tati, let me come to you as well. What are your final remarks, and what is it that the Botswanan League obviously is doing, practically speaking, to move towards establishing a professional league that players can look to as a source of employment, as a source, as a place where they can basically showcase their talent and be able to earn a living and make livelihoods?
Thank you very much. As the association, what we've realized is that we have to, to create a very clean and beautiful, corporate image. And one of the things that we are working on is ensuring that we empower clubs, to develop the structures, make sure that they put the right structures in place. And our belief is that when our clubs have, proper structures in place, getting people to associate with you, to partner with you, will be very easy. So we are, as I speak, there's a meeting going on, and I think another one on meeting, talking on this particular issue. So our belief is that once everything has been said and it's very clear, structures are clear and clean, then it should be easy for teams to turn professional. And when teams are professional, it brings everybody on board. It brings fans, it brings, young players who want to or aspire to be like, the big brothers and big sisters. So we are hoping that will be very, very soon. Now, I also want to, thank you for this opportunity. We have engaged with other members from, Zone 6, and we're going to continue engaging and see how we can develop the game of basketball. Now, you see, the reason why football, for example, is doing quite well is because football is played everywhere. A small space, people are kicking the ball about. We should, create a similar situation for basketball, where we give, the young ones basketball, they play basketball everywhere, so that, basketball becomes the new football. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Hopefully we engage some more in the near future. Thank you very much, and good night.
All right. Thank you very much, Tati. Definitely, we will be able to see you again. And let me now offer an opportunity to the last man on our panel this evening, Roderick, who is here. And Roderick, from you as well, we just want to find out, the plans that we have to make this league professional. It has the potential, it has everything that it needs to be able to become what everybody else on this panel has stated. So just let us in briefly on that and your closing remarks.
We need to realize now that where we've reached, the world of sports is not just for fun. Sports is meant to empower the youth. It's meant to empower the people involved at all levels, from players to administrators, as an opportunity for a living, meaning that it's a source of income. We are very much alive to those issues. And for us to attain that dream of making our leagues or going professional, we have gone back to the basics. I will not get tired to enlighten the public that for us to attend those, we need to put our house in order. And I alluded to in my preamble that our house is in order. We have put all governance structures in order. We have put all marketing plans in order. What we need to see at this level is to see that what is at the federation level trickles down to the association level, and whatever will reflect at the federation level, we want it mirrored at the club level. When that pathway and the structure is clean, you are going to see that the game of basketball in Zambia is going to attract fans, meaning that the game of basketball is going to be popular. And once you are popular, the corporate world will come to you. No one wants to associate themselves with a disorganized house. No one associates themselves with losers. We want to attain a level where every structure is smooth. When that product is ready, then we are going to turn professional. As we are speaking now, we have a strategic plan that runs up to 2026. And in our strat, there's a pathway for us to attain what we put up now. And when we reach 2026, of course, we have got mid-term reviews. We are going to incorporate that part, having assessed what we would have achieved when we reach there. That's my issue about turning professional. Then on the issue of this forum,
Closing remarks. Closing remarks.
On my closing remarks, I want to thank you for offering us an opportunity to interact with our people, our basketball players, administrators, and such. I think this is a very good initiative, because what I realize that there's information gap. What us at the NEC level in respective countries, at federation level, the information we have does not trickle down to our affiliates. And this is the reason why it creates gaps and misunderstanding. This forum answers that. We are encouraging you, Watson, that let's have this as a weekly forum where we use it to disseminate the much needed information to our affiliates. That's number one. Number two, I want to challenge my fellow SGs here that our preoccupation as federations is to host competitions at national level. Let these 4 countries present here stage up a competition next year where Zimbabwe, Malawi, Botswana, and Zambia come together and compete at the national level. So, Charmaine, I'm hereby delegating that you create a group so that we now start discussing this in the background. Thank you very much, and good night. We have lost the host.
Our host.
No. I'm very much here. I'm very much here.
I'll create a group in Botswana. When we meet in Gabon, when BC beats Mali Suns, I'll take the group soon after the final game.
Yeah, you know, we don't have a platform and a tournament as the nationals. Let our international players or our national team players have a competition, something to look up to. We don't compete at international level, so let's create our competition.
Mm-hmm. I
All right. Okay, please, Peter, go ahead. What are your thoughts about that?
No, I just concur with what Roderick has mentioned in his final remarks. We need that, and with Charmaine, we started discussing this. We started exchanging documents. So I think when we meet in Botswana, I think we can have a proper meeting and set the ball rolling.
Okay, Tati, are you in on this?
Most definitely. I mean, we've had, muted discussion on Nabosa, and, we need to resuscitate it. And I think, this offers us an opportunity. And like he's saying, let's meet when you guys are in Botswana and see what we can do. so that, you know, we give our national team players an opportunity to play. You know, the thing is this, if we are going to be competing with the teams up north and we get 100, between 100, 150, you know, it's bad for even inspiring young ones. They don't want to be associated with losers. So let's start here, build, compete, and then you can go up there and, you know, beat all those guys up there. So is an idea that we have been discussing it at PPA to say, what should we do? And just to add on to that, you know, we are big on 3-on-3, and one of our initiatives, you know, is to create an annual tournament, a regional tournament. It's something that is on our strategy that we are trying to work on and develop. And this talks to this particular issue of ensuring that, you know, we have regular national team games, and it will be exciting when we're here to discuss it and see where it takes us.
All right, thank you very much, Peter, for those remarks. And to my guests this evening that managed to join me on this particular important conversation, I would like to just extend my utmost gratitude. And of course, Peter Gomani joining me all the way from Malawi and representing the Malawi Basketball Association. Thank you very much, sir, for coming through and gracing us with your presence, sharing some of the important initiatives that Malawi is doing out there, showing everybody that it doesn't matter, but you can do something with what you have, even as you aim high. And by the way, I can safely tell you that Malawi is putting itself on notice. We never spoke about Malawi 5 years ago, but today we are talking about Malawi basketball because you guys are doing something over there. Charmaine, thank you for making the time. I know you had quite a very busy schedule. It was not easy for you to come through, but you had to see and somehow spare time to come and be part of this important discussion. And I want to tell you that as a half Zimbo who lives in Zambia, who has been spoiled by Roderick, I am so happy that I was not alone on this platform. I had a fellow Zimbo here, so I'm not alone. Thank you very much. You know, I wish my grandmother taught me how to speak better Shona. I could have said thank you in Shona, but I believe it's Tatenda, something like Tatenda. Yeah, so thank you very much, Charmaine, for coming through. And whatever Zambia does, obviously Zimbabwe takes notice as a very interesting cousin. So I appreciate you. Looking forward to interact and engaging with you next time. And Tati, the gentleman all the way from Botswana, thank you very much for repping the Diamond Nation. We appreciate you, and we're looking forward to hearing more positive things coming from the nation of Botswana with regards basketball. And you will be hearing from me time and again, inquiring and wanting one or two things with regards the sport that we're all passionate about. And of course, Mr. Roderick Ndlovu, my elder brother, the man that I always fight with, you know, thank you very much, Mr. Roderick, for being on this particular platform. I appreciate your presence. Contrary to misconceptions out there, your presence here signifies your commitment to be able to interact with the general public within the world of basketball, and also shows the commitment of the leadership that indeed you value transparency and you value engagement, people's opinion, and your interest is to grow the game. So much respect to you. And of course, you and me will keep fighting as we grow the game of basketball. In fact, when I say fighting, people shouldn't think we fight because we hate each other. No, what I mean is constructive fighting that grows the game of basketball. And thank you for keeping your door open all the time whenever I call upon you. So to all those that joined us via our YouTube platform, thank you very much for watching. Those of you that were with us from Twitter, thank you very much for joining. And of course, those of you that were very much active on Facebook, asking the questions, sharing your thoughts and comments, thank you very much for watching this program. This has been Off the Court with me, Wenson Mavoro. Like I said earlier on, we will give you a part 2 of this conversation, and all the SDs here have confirmed. So see you next time.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.